My name is Richard Seals. I'm the owner of South Bay Aviation in Torrance, California.
And I'm Igor Kulikov.
And he's been our project director since the beginning, back in 2000. Well, this airplane is a 1958 Aero Commander 720 Altacruiser. It's one of the only airplanes we believe that were used by the White House, Pentagon, and the President of the United States.
AOPA keeps flying safe, accessible, and fun by protecting your freedom to fly. We are the most trusted one-stop resource for all things related to general aviation. Become an AOPA pilot today.
The airplane had been gutted on the inside. The windows, you couldn't see through the windows. The struts were deflated, tires were rotted off of it. It was a mess, and nobody really was too interested in what it was. They just wanted to see it get cut up and sent to the boneyard to free up 3 of the parking spots here on the airport. I'd been complaining to the city to get it moved for quite some time, and they finally approached me as cutting it up and sending it to the boneyard. And when we got ready to cut it up and send it to the boneyard, the FAA stepped in and said, no, we don't want you to cut it up because it's got multiple bladder gas tanks and could blow up or cause a fire, so we want you to take it apart. So when we contacted Twin Commander, who was very helpful, and we started identifying what kind of an airplane it was and how to take it apart so we could send it to the boneyard, that's when the first initial discovery was made based upon the type certificate, the ID numbers, the manufacturing numbers, the serial numbers, and all that, that it may be an airplane that had some historical significance. We contacted a lot of different people, and we stopped taking it apart for some period of time while we did the research. And once we discovered that it was a historically significant airplane, we began the restoration process. This airplane, unlike most airplanes that run on 5606 hydraulic fluid, this airplane runs on Skydrill, which is almost like an acid. It doesn't freeze at altitude, it doesn't boil, it doesn't evaporate, but it's very caustic, very hazardous. So in handling of the Skydrill fluids in the airplane, we've been in almost full body suits, hazmat suits, handling it. So the superchargers, the air conditioning units, all ran on Skydrill, but so does the flaps. It has huge flaps, and the gear and the nose wheel steering are all pressurized at 1500 PSI for hydraulically controlled nose wheel steering, which was a challenge for me to get used to when I first started taxiing it around. It was very unusual. The 93-inch propellers were larger propellers produced by the Hartzell company that gave it some advantages, removed some of the vibration, and then they went to the larger engines with the big superchargers.
And gearbox.
And the gearbox. It's a gear-driven Gitzoed engine on the front end, and it has the largest carburetors you've ever seen. They came out of like a B-17. They're P7 updraft carburetors that cost over $10,000 a piece to overhaul the 2 carburetors that went in alone. The superchargers were about $10,000 each to overhaul. It had 1/2-inch thick glass windshields and an eyebrow that curved down over those glass windshields because they had a lot of trouble pressurizing the airplane. It was called a slab side airplane. If you look at some of the other windows, they put in an extra 24 rivets and screws and sandwiched the windows for the pressurization. They sealed the entire body of the airplane is a sealed section, again, all for the pressurization, because they needed, for Eisenhower, they needed the additional horsepower performance with the larger engines, larger propellers, and superchargers to get the larger body, 680 converted to 720, up off the ground as quickly as possible off his grass runways. That was the design specification that they were shooting for.
I especially appreciate the engineering that went into it. And when you work with aircraft like this, you could see that it was designed for mechanic in mind. So I really, really did enjoy it. Still do. It's like working on Ford and Mercedes. You know, that's the difference. This is a Mercedes, in my mind.
We're going to take it to Oshkosh. We're hoping that we'll be able to work with the Commemorative Air Force to bring the 2 together, the first one and the last one. And then we want to take it to Sun and Fun and then we'll deliver it to Dulles. We were fortunate enough, they brought us back to Washington, D.C. We met with the Smithsonian, we've talked to them about it. We are looking at different options also, but our initial goal was to donate it to the Smithsonian as a gift for generations to come.